Hey everyone, and welcome back to Alf's Mustang Garage. Today we're going to do a very basic how-to video, and that's going to be how to change the oil on your classic Mustang. And I can't think of any car that would be more fitting to show you how to do that than this gorgeous 1965 Mustang Fastback. Very, very gorgeous build by one of our very good customers. And so we are getting the break-in oil out of this car. Engine has maybe 500 miles on it. And so today we get to do the oil change on that. We'll do a step-by-step. We'll show you exactly what I do, how I do that, and let's get started. Step one, raise and secure the vehicle. Step two, warm your engine so the oil drains faster and more complete. Step three, check your oil before you drain it. I like to see if my engines are burning oil or consuming oil, so I love to check the oil before I drain it. Looks like about 1/4 of a quart low, which is perfectly fine. All engines will consume oil to a degree. Step four. You should have already raised and safely secured the vehicle. So now we have to get under the vehicle and drain the oil. I happen to have a 2-post lift, so life is a little easier for me. Most of us will be doing this with a jack and jack stands and crawling underneath the car. But if that's the case, make sure it's safely secured. And she's a beauty. Full rotisserie restoration on this car. Gorgeous. Step five, identify what tools you need for draining. This particular drain plug, I'm going to take a 7/8 wrench, or oil filter wrench, standard band wrench, very easy to access on this car. Step 6, get an oil catch pan underneath your oil pan. Step 7, loosen and remove your drain plug. One trick that I like to do is wrap the wrench with a rag. Put it on there and hit the wrench. You don't want to be pushing on it or pulling on it. It's just going to slip off and you're going to bust a knuckle or smack yourself in the face. And just pound it like that. You shouldn't be very tight, but sometimes people put them on pretty tight. I can't remember what step we're on. 7. Drain the oil into the pan. Step 8. These band clamps are meant to tighten or loosen. Usually you don't use these to tighten, just loosen. Step 9, loosen the oil filter. Get on the base with your wrench and remove counterclockwise if you're looking straight onto it. Loosen the filter and let the oil drain into the pan. I love that the gasket actually stuck on the engine block. This is a great moment to teach. The gaskets from time to time will come off of the filter and be stuck on the engine. If you don't check this and you install your new oil filter, it will then have what we call a double gasket. When you start this sucker up, it's going to spill and leak oil like crazy. And before you notice and catch, no matter how fast you are, it's going to make a big mess of your expensive oil in your very nice car. So, check. And as you can see, the rubber gasket is stuck on the engine. Take that gasket off. There it is. So, which brings me to my next step. Make sure that that mounting surface is clean. I like to grab a hold of the studs and make sure the stud is also tight. I've seen these come loose before, and you don't want that to happen either. It's tight, and the mounting surface is clean of any dirt or debris. Oil is okay on the mounting surface. Your new oil filter. This is a Rotunda reproduction of the original oil filters that came on these cars in the 60s. Typically you wouldn't be putting one of these on unless you had a pristine show car like this. So today that's what we are. While that's still draining, I like to let that drain as long as possible on a car like this. So we're going to prep our oil filter. Before I install these filters, one thing that is helpful is put a little bit of oil inside of your filter. This is called priming. You don't want to fill the oil filter completely full because it can just kind of like leak out a little bit if you go to install it. But you do want to put some in there for you to kind of help cushion the blow when you first start it up and the oil is coming into the filter. It just already has like it's already primed. It's just not nice and easy on your engine. So we're gonna prime the filter, make sure we lube the gasket up, and then install our filter. Hand tight only. Please, hand tight only. Please do not use a band wrench to tighten this thing up. It does not need to be that tight. It needs to be tight enough that it's not going to vibrate off and leak, but it doesn't need to be crazy tight. So, oil filter is on. Oil is still draining. You can allow this to drain as long as you'd like, but when you're done, the drain plug is going to go back in. This particular car, we might let sit for about an hour just to get as much oil out of it as possible. Drain plug is on. Again, do not crank this thing crazy down. Snug tight is all you need. I've seen way too many pans come in that are stripped out. And that's how they get stripped out. People just crank them down. So, okay. From here we can go back up to the top of the car and add our oil. So we left off with tightening the drain plug and installing a new oil filter. I don't even know what step we're on. I was trying to do step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but I don't know. Step 10, I have no idea. So now we're gonna add the oil. These engines love a high level of zinc oil. So we're in this particular engine build, we're doing a 20W50 high zinc oil. So I typically don't usually use synthetics in older engines, but it just kind of depends on your build and your preference. So anyway, oil cap on your 289-302s are usually over here on the driver's side. So we're going to pop that off. Get yourself a handy dandy funnel. Most of the time these engines will hold 5 quarts. So we're probably going to start with that. Okay, oil cap is back on. I actually didn't put the full 5th quart in there because it's easier to add oil than to take it out if you for some reason have to. But if you did a good drain on it, like 5 quarts should be fine. So anyways, next step, we're going to start the engine. This is called the pressure check of the system. The reason why we do that is because we want to make sure the oil filter is sealed and not leaking, and then you can get a proper level check on your dipstick. Because right now it'll read, you know, probably over full, but as soon as you start it and you fill your oil filter up full of oil, then you're going to get the more accurate reading on your dipstick. So let's start this sucker up. If you have a 65 car that's not a GT, you probably have an oil pressure light. So what you're looking for is that pressure light to turn off, which would indicate that you're you have built up oil pressure. If you have a gauge, which would be a 66 car and later, a 66 car and later, or a 65 GT, then you would just kind of watch your oil pressure gauge come up. So assuming that your gauges are working properly. So key on, the oil pressure light is on because there's no oil pressure. But as soon as we start the engine, that light should turn off. And it does. And you can let it run for, a minute or so and go look at your oil filter and make sure it's not dripping or anything like crazy like that. But that usually is good enough to let it run for 30 seconds or so, and she should be good. Okay, almost done. We're going to check the oil level. So pull your dipstick out, wipe it off. You need to get a clean dip. As you can see, we're just below the full. So full is right here with these dots. We're about 1/4 of a quart low. Okay. You can even let this settle, let the oil settle down in the pan before you get a good reading, because sometimes people will add oil right after they shut it off, and so they don't allow the oil to fall down into the pan, and then it kind of overfills it. I'd rather have a slightly underfilled engine than a slightly overfilled engine. So anyways, you can give that a good amount of time before you check it and add if you'd like. But oil is reading that they're at full. Okay. Make sure everything you touch is back on. You can check your coolant, check all your other fluids while you're at it. But that is how you change oil on your classic Mustangs. So thanks for watching. We'll catch you next time.